Hi everybody, this time I'm going to just do a small short coverage of some of the Superman figures that came after the Superman Man of Steel. So we're talking about sort of almost late 1990s, and I only have about 5 particular ones, out of which 4 is Superman in different costumes, and the last one is Superboy, the clone of Superman. So all of these actually came from the continuation of the Total Justice storyline that was started by Kenner, and then it was continued by Hasbro, who absorbed and bought Kenner out, and they just renamed it and called it Justice League of America instead of Total Justice. But the figures were pretty much done on the same, along the same idea and the same sculpts. So one of the first ones that was there, with the shorter hair this time, is Superman, and he is again pre-posed with again very limited articulation altogether, and mostly he could move his arms first, can be moved up and down. Plastic red cape with the letter S at the back, and the cape is removable. The legs can move about that much forward, and as far as I know they cannot go backwards, or maybe they could. I could try. No, they seem to be firmly in place. But anyway, this is pretty much how he looked. It's not really a statue, but it's not fully articulated either, but it still looked rather good. They just opted out for the idea of making him look like his classic look rather than giving him long hair again. So this is how he looked. Now another figure of him, just done in the same exact way, same exact sculpt like this previous one, is the battle damaged Superman. He was packaged with one of his enemies in the same box, and that enemy would be the one who has the kryptonite in his chest, and goodness, I forget his name now. Anyway, it's a half human, half robot, who becomes, his name is good Lord. Anyway, if I remember, I will mention it in the video. I hope I can remember it. So anyway, he was packaged with another character, so they would come together in one, and it's pretty much as a sort of a side release of the not the Total Justice, of the Justice League of America. And you can see that his costume is all torn up due to the fight. Same rubber cape with this time a much smaller letter S, and even the cape, his battle damage, has rips all over it. He can move his legs and arms, and again he's rather pre-posed. Sometimes there is a difficulty to make him stand for whatever reason, but even on a straight surface he has a sort of a hard time standing. But you can tell that it is the same sculpt pretty much, with some modifications. The head sculpt and the facial expression are exactly the same. And I finally remembered who was he packaged with. He was packaged with Metallo. Metallo is a known criminal who, due to an accident, only managed to survive by having a piece of kryptonite implanted in his chest, and he's been trying to kill Superman ever since. So he was packaged with Metallo, whom I don't have here, and that particular version of Metallo is completely in the robot form. You cannot see any human skin on him or anything like that. So that was the 2-pack with Metallo and Battle Damage Superman. Anyway, moving on, we have, if you guys are familiar with this kind of costume that Superman did wear, this is Superman Red, and out of the same sculpt we have Superman Blue. He wore these costumes in the storyline when he practically managed to connect his powers to the lightning, and his persona split in two. So one was red, one was blue, and this is nothing new really, because this idea was propagated even in the vintage Superman comics, except the costumes didn't look anything like this. The red and blue Superman existed even in the roughly 1960s, 1970s, thereabouts, where he was able to split in two, So that, according to the Vintage comics, both of those Superman was actually Superman himself, just split along two different lines, and they were not wearing electrical costumes or anything like that, or electricity-based costumes. They were wearing the regular costumes, except one Superman had his costume, classic costume, in red, and the other one had it in blue. And it was rather a fictional story that I remember seeing these costumes before in the old comics, but it was an interesting take on it. Anyway, they're pre-posed and they don't have a lot of articulation as usual, because this is again from Hasbro, mid-1990s, almost late 1990s. And the thing about these guys is they were released again in the DC Universe Classics by Mattel in the 2000s, and again they were released in the DC Direct toyline as well. So these versions of Superman are rather popular because they have seen release several times over the years from different companies. And the final figure that I can mention here is the clone of Superman, still known as a Superboy, even though he doesn't like being called that in the comics. He can move his legs about that much backward and about this much forward, so it seems to me he can move a lot more backward than forward. And he comes with a bit more accurate hairstyle, because in the comics he does have a shaven head along the sides, and he does wear an earring which is molded right here, if you guys can see it. And he was released in along the other characters that did not show up in the Total Justice lineup. So in the Hasbro Justice League of America he was included along with some of the other Teen Titans in sort of more modernized costumes. So yeah, this is again a very nice representation of that version of Superboy. He's only missing his leather jacket, but he had more than one version of his costume, so the leather jacket was the very first one. Anything after that was just a modification of it. So yeah, that's Superboy, and I'll just show you how he looks next to Superman. Superman, I believe, is a bit taller than him, which is the way it should be. But they were all very well done, I would say, all of them. So anyhow, that was just a short talk about these versions of Superman, again from around roughly end of 1990s. What came after that will be discussed in another video, because the Superman figures go way back, and I just covered one portion of it, but we still have to cover what happened after Hasbro took a shot at it. There will be more discussion about specifically Superman and his allies in another video. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you again later. Bye.